Good morning, and welcome to the 4th Annual Regional Economic Development Symposium, The Art of Transformation. My name is Diane Burnham, and I am the Executive Director of the Southeast Chicago Commission, otherwise known as SECC, and we are thrilled to have you all here today for this amazing event. As a community leader, it is my vision and responsibility to explore collective thought, to foster collaboration and coordination among businesses, artists and creative entrepreneurs, organizations, and thought leaders. We must work collectively to promote equitable investment and economic vitality through strategic community programs and planning that make sense for all. I would like to thank our presenting sponsor, Allstate Foundation, for their commitment to advancing equitable investments in our communities. And also, thank you to all of our fantastic sponsors, partners, and fellow economic development practitioners for your support of small business development on the South Side. My sincere gratitude goes to the SEC staff, our incredible symposium committee, led by our chair, Bernita Johnson-Gabriel, and also to Jared Kelly, who leads the production team at CEI Media Group. This year, we've curated an inspiring group of business leaders, entrepreneurs, and community advocates who will challenge us to dig deeper as we all work towards the art of transforming ourselves and our communities. In July, the SECC was proud to announce our new board officers and new board president, Jordan Sorrell. Jordan brings a wealth of experience and expertise and will be a tremendous asset to SECC's leadership and next phase of growth. We are grateful to all of our board members for their service and could not do this without you. Jordan?
Thank you, Diane. Good morning. My name is Jordan Sorrell, and I serve as the new president, board of directors for the Southeast Chicago Commission. I'm grateful to serve the SECC. There are great things in store for our organization. Welcome to the 4th Annual Economic Development Symposium. I want to thank Diane Burnham, our executive director, and staff for their leadership in making the SECC a leading economic convener serving Chicago's Southeast region. I also want to acknowledge our past board president, Alvin Charity. Thank you, Alvin, for your numerous contributions and impact during your time leading the board. The SECC and communities we serve are grateful to you and for all that you have done and will continue to do. Finally, thank you to our guests and sponsors. This year's symposium is presented by Allstate with the support of many sponsors and community partners. Your investment allows us to host programs and events throughout the year. Today's keynote conversation is sponsored by Comcast, Comcast Business, NBC Chicago, and Telemundo Chicago. As Senior Manager, External Affairs for Comcast Greater Chicago Region, we are proud to support the SECC and their work to provide assistance to businesses owned by women and people of color. This year, the SECC is a nonprofit partner in the Comcast Rise Investment Fund that will award $10,000 grants to 100 small businesses owned by women and people of color in the city of Chicago and Cook County. Comcast Rise is a part of Comcast's Project Up, our company's commitment to advancing digital equity and help to build a future of unlimited possibilities. Please visit www.comcastrise.com to learn more about the program and how to apply. And now, I would like to present our keynote conversation, The Art of Transformation, with LaForce Baker and Gloria Castillo, moderated by Michelle Relaford from NBC Chicago. LaForce and Gloria will share how their organizations are addressing economic recovery in Chicago. I look forward to their conversation and other panels during today's symposium.
On behalf of the Southeast Chicago Commission, welcome to the 4th Annual SECC Economic Development Symposium presented this year by Allstate. I'm Michelle Relaford from NBC5 Chicago, and I am honored to moderate this year's keynote conversation, The Art of Transformation. It's sponsored by Comcast, Comcast Business, NBC Chicago, and Telemundo Chicago. The SECC's Economic Development Symposium is a long-term commitment to civic leadership in the Southeast Lakefront region. The SECC convenes residents, neighbors, and business owners who have a vested interest in the economic growth of our communities. Let me take a moment now to congratulate and applaud the Southeast Chicago Commission for celebrating 70 years of service. This region appreciates your support of small businesses, capacity building with other organizations, and your overall investment in Chicago's South Side neighborhoods. Now, I'm joined today by special guests Gloria Castillo with the Chicago Community Trust and LaForce Baker with World Business Chicago, and they will share insights about new initiatives, resources, and opportunities aligned with Black and Latinx communities and how their organizations address equitable economic recovery in Chicago. So I want to thank you both for joining us, and let's go ahead and jump right into this because I noticed a common theme between the two of you. You are both very passionate about entrepreneurship and a true dedication to advocating for minority communities here in Chicago. Now, Gloria, of course, you are very well known for your work as president and CEO of Chicago United for 16 years. Congratulations with that. And LaForce, we have seen your rise in several stories, but certainly Moon Meals is a phenomenal part of your success story, and I hope to try them one day very, very soon. Well, Gloria, if you don't mind starting us off, we'd love to hear more about your role leading We Rise Together at the Chicago Community Trust.
Well, thank you for the question. I am the director of We Rise Together for an Equitable and Just Recovery, which is a collaborative of philanthropic and private corporate funders. And we're dedicated to ensuring that in this economic recovery, coming out of COVID, both the health and economic crisis, that it is equitable and that we are making grant investments in our Black and Latinx communities. What we're looking to do is make sure that as we come out of COVID, that the investments in our neighborhood hubs, those areas that anchor our neighborhoods, are actually building and thriving. And then we start with brick and mortar projects, and sometimes those are brand new construction projects, and sometimes they're renovations of buildings that have been long left vacant. And those buildings will then serve community by bringing amenities, while bringing goods and services to the community. And then once that's established, making sure that the small business communities surrounding those anchors are strengthened. So we know that it's important for us to have thriving small businesses in our communities, and then making sure that we're investing in workforce opportunities so that the people in the community around those anchors actually have opportunities to expand employment in ways that are quality, resilient jobs that support their families and actually strengthen the entire community.
Some really important work that you are doing. And LaForce, we'd love to hear more about how you found your way to World Business Chicago, and tell us more about your role there.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. So, for me, I was, as you said, CEO of Moon Meals for about a decade. So essentially, entrepreneurship is something that is really, really important to me and something that, changed my life. Growing up on the far south side of Chicago, I didn't have anyone in my family that were entrepreneurs, and also I felt like I did not have the tools to really change my own community. I was just living there. And so, one of the things that I want to do was I want to be able to empower others from communities like my own to be able to build the businesses there, but then also to be able to determine the amenities that came to the community. And so at World Business Chicago essentially is the economic development arm for the city of Chicago. We attract the businesses to the communities, and the community impact team, which I lead, focuses on the south and west sides of the city. So it presented an amazing opportunity for me to be able to empower those in the community to bring the very things that they want to see in their own community in ways that they wouldn't have the means to do otherwise. It also enabled me to focused on building established entrepreneurs in our communities to be able to grow and scale and offer more services, hire more folks in the community. So, we focus on attracting businesses to the South and West Side, but we also focus on building capacity, namely helping with access to capital, not grants, but we do help connect established Black and Latinx business owners to debt financing that they probably wouldn't otherwise get access to. And so we launched something this year called the Black and Latino Excellence Investment Summit that does just that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But it's to address that access to capital so our businesses can grow and scale, meet the needs of those in our communities that they haven't been able to meet otherwise.
Well, that's wonderful. Of course, as an entrepreneur, you know best the types of services and resources and challenges that they face. And so you can speak to that and serve them best. So really wonderful to see you reaching back to help others on the same journey that you have traveled. Either of you can address this because for Black and Latinx communities in Chicago, there has been a concern about economic imbalance as the city recovers. So could you speak to the inequities that you have noticed in the recovering process?
Well, I can begin by, first of all, acknowledging that we have decades of disinvestment in some of our communities. And we also know that in the last recession, in the recovery of the last recession, some of our Black and Latinx communities never fully recovered. We had more small business closures, we had higher levels of unemployment, home values that decreased, and so we really haven't made that up yet. So what's really important is that we think about the economic engines in our community to create equity. And so that's why we're really thinking about those projects and delivering the services for small businesses that will actually help to strengthen each one of those communities and make them economically thriving.
Well, we touched on investment, so let's talk about the money involved here in LaForce. I know that you are doing some amazing work with your community impact team and with your Black and Latino Excellence Investment Summit in June. Fill us in a little bit more about the summit, the goals, and the great outcomes that you've already seen.
Yeah, sure. So, we launched this year our first Black and Latino Excellence Investment Summit to address an issue that a lot of small business owners brought up to us when we're going out and trying to attract the larger businesses to the South and West Side. And that is, if we go into a bank as a small business owner, I cannot get meaningful access to capital. Like, I can't get money to grow my business. I can't add a new employee. I can't add a new service. I can't, buy my real estate. And so we launched this summit for established businesses that have been around at least 3 years, doing at least $250K in revenue, and they are Black or Latino owned. And these business owners, they can go through 3-month tailored programming, get one-on-one technical support with the banks that we have that are partnered with us, as well as some community development corporations that are partnered with us. And at the end of this summit, they can actually get money, like meaningful checks, 6-figure plus checks, so that they can actually add an employee or add a service and bring the amenities that our communities need. It was a really tough process for a lot of these business owners because, again, they're great at their own product or the service that they bring, but some of these business owners, they might not have been the best at putting together an application for a bank. Also, some of the banks, they recognize that traditionally the lending processes that the big banks have do not privilege Black and Latino business owners and some of our small business owners in general. And so, going through this process so they can be match made with the banks and get the assistance actually help them put together compelling applications. And I'm happy to say that, we actually had 2 businesses in particular that's on the path to get funded by the end of this year from coming out of the summit. And so we're really, really proud of that. We want to grow and build off of that. So now we're actually inviting people to sign up for the next year's cohort. But we want to build this infrastructure really for particularly Black and Latino owned businesses that are established to be able to scale. Because that helps us bring those amenities to the community from someone actually from the community. It's one thing to bring in the national retailer, and that's helpful. Everyone's excited about that. That brings jobs. But by building up these small business owners, that builds wealth in the community, and that's something that we're really passionate about, and we want to encourage more of.
Oh, really bridging the gap. That sounds like a great opportunity for these business owners and the banks as well, a win-win for everybody. And Gloria, I've just learned that since September of 2021, We Rise Together awarded more than $23 million in grants, and that includes $18.9 million to 23 real estate developments in 16 Chicago neighborhoods and 2 Cook County suburbs. And in fact, in June, We Rise Together announced $4.5 million invested in 6 communities. I know you're going to update some of those numbers because you have some great new information, but share a little bit more about these grant investments with us.
Well, we're really excited about this. So by the end of this month, it will be up to $30 million in grants. And I think LaForce said something that's really important, which is we want to build wealth in communities. And many of our projects are also entrepreneurial. So we have community-based organizations that we're supporting, like the Overton Center for Excellence, but we also have social enterprises like Shy Fresh Kitchens that are in our portfolio of grants. And so what's important about those is that we're really interested in projects that are community-led. We feel passionately about investing with community and enabling their vision of what is needed in the community, what amenities are needed, what services are needed, and how will they create jobs. And so it is, we're excited about the level of grants because for many of these projects, they get to a point, and particularly with the recession having kind of impacted, and then inflation and supply chain issues, you know, it's impacted their budget. So they hit this point where they don't have enough liquidity to be able to go for the next level of bank financing. And so our grant process allows them to get through that, and then we can get them to the finish line. Our goal with the projects that we fund, and they're relatively large-scale projects, but our goal is to get them to the finish line so that they open their doors for the services that they are delivering. And then the businesses that LaForce is working with can surround those anchor projects with the small business community. And that becomes a much more cohesive opportunity for the entire neighborhood to become an economically thriving neighborhood.
Fantastic. And LaForce, let's talk more about those resources that you're providing. I understand you had 15 small businesses involved with that summit that you talked about. And were any of those businesses from the local Southeast region?
Yes, so we actually had a business that, really inspiring story, Margie's Candies, or Margie's Jams. They started as just, they started off in like a few locations, and now they're in hundreds of locations with Jewel Osco and Mariano's. And they came to us because they are actually, the facility that they operate out of, it's too small. Like, they actually need to grow and scale, and they need to add more space to their facility. They need to finance equipment so that they can be able to service larger orders. And so they came to us because they had a hard time when they go to banks actually getting funded. And so, that business is based actually in the Woodlawn neighborhood, so it's one of the southeast, kind of southeast side communities. And that business owner came to us. We really helped him to be able to identify, okay, how much money can I actually get based on how much money my business makes? A lot of business owners, they don't necessarily know how to put together their application in the way to get the funding that they need. They also sometimes might miss that there's different funding opportunities. The banks might finance part of what they're doing, but then we might go to Gloria at the Chicago Community Trust or other philanthropy to fill out the rest that a bank might not, they might feel is a little bit too risky for them, but we can kind of help them put together a package now. So that now they can get their whole project funded. And so I'm really happy that he was able to go through that programming. So I think that he'll definitely be more competitive for grants, for bank funding, so that he can grow and scale his business and hopefully add more locations and be able to, add more employees, which means jobs, on the southeast side in Chicago.
I know with banks, we're talking about loans. Of course, with the Chicago Community Trust, is it a combination of grants and loans? Is it usually loans that you're distributing?
All of the dollars that we've distributed are grants, but we consider them investments. So while they are certainly part of the philanthropic picture, when we evaluate a project, we are looking at the entire picture. What services will be delivered to the community? How will the economic impact benefit the community? What is their business model so that they are sustainable? So while it's true that we take more risk than perhaps a bank, we are looking at many of the same factors when we make our grant investments. And that's important because we want to make sure that when we've put those dollars to work in the community, that they have a long-term sustainable picture. And that's important to us. Certainly, we expect that when we've made these grant investments, so let's say, for example, Justice of the Pies is actually transforming a kind of important corridor because they will be the anchor on the four corners. So we want to make sure that they have a sustainable business model. And certainly they also have to have a social aspect to the work. So they are actually delivering classes for students to learn about baking. So while it is a business, it also has to have a positive impact on the community from a philanthropic perspective.
Fantastic. Well, what criteria are used to determine the grants or participation in your summit? You mentioned that the business needs to be in existence for, I believe, at least 3 years and bring in $250,000 annually in revenue. Any other criteria that people need to know about?
Yeah, I think the business, they need to have a clearly identified kind of growth project. And so, if it's, I need to buy a building so I can expand my production capacity, or, I want to add another line of service to my business. Maybe you're a restaurant and now you want to do catering. Having that clearly identified project, again, being an existing business, we can help you. Another thing is, because we are the economic development agency for the city of Chicago, we're working alongside folks to help, when these businesses want to grow and scale, help them identify places that they can scale that will actually be catalytic. So, we try to work alongside folks like Gloria at the Trust to kind of concentrate these businesses on the corridors where people are actually walking and shopping. Because if we could, instead of just saying, okay, you have a nice shiny business on this one street, but then all the other businesses are dilapidated and closed on that street, that doesn't really change the community. One of the things that we're trying to do is say, if there's already some momentum, and we're kind of focused on 10 different neighborhoods across the city, we want to say, if a business wants to grow and scale, hey, maybe you want to consider one of these 10 corridors, so that then you can be a part of maybe this 3, 4, 5 blocks of investment that's happening from, the city investing, private investment from these banks for the businesses that participate, philanthropy, so that then you actually, when you walk down the street in some of our communities on the south and west side, it starts to feel different. The opportunity is there, the hope is now there. And so, that's the whole goal, I think, too, with us all kind of working together, trying to help particularly Black and Latino businesses be a part of this recovery, is to make sure that they are where, the recovery is happening, where the investment dollars are, because sometimes we get left out of that. And so, we're trying to make sure that those business owners get access to the money, but then we're also pointing them where they should grow and expand, where the city is already doing investments or private investments happening, so they're more likely to be successful.
Yeah, that's really important in terms of setting the business up for success. I know people can think you just need to build it and they will come, but location, and that can really make a difference in between whether a business survives or fails. And of course, there are thousands of small businesses in the city of Chicago interested in grants or financial investment. So what would you say makes a business stand out to be invited or included?
Well, I think one key thing is that business needs to know, or have an idea at least, where they want to set up shop. We get a lot of businesses that will reach out to us and they want technical assistance, or they're interested in expanding. They don't have a site laid out. And unfortunately, if you don't have what's called site control, or an actual, like, whether it be a lease with a landlord, or you've actually gotten a sale done on some land and now you own the land or the building, then it's really hard for us to help get you financing, because most banks, they want to know that you have site control. Most even philanthropic partners, I think, at the trust, they want to know that you have site control. And so, having that identified location is key. Also, you want to make sure that you're in a location where, there's some momentum, where, it might have been traditionally a disinvested community, because a lot of our communities, unfortunately, on the south and west side have been disinvested, and that's wrong that that's happened. But you do want to be where, you already see some momentum starting to happen. You might see some development happening here and there, so that you can tag along and be a part of it. Because now the strategy is concentrated economic development. So if you can be a part of that, and your business brings an amenity that the community otherwise did not have, then I think you will be primed to grow in this environment. We're looking for those businesses. I think about Stephanie Hart of Brown Sugar Bakery. I don't know if you ever had her sweets, but they are amazing.
Caramel cake, absolutely, yes.
Amazing, right? So, Stephanie Hart, she started off with the one location in Chatham. Now she has 3 locations, including one at Navy Pier, right? I mean, that's a pretty amazing story. It took her about 20 years to get there, so it wasn't an overnight success. But, she was a part of our investment summit. So, she's primed to get capital to grow for her business. But then also, we're saying to Stephanie, hey, we have 10 investments. There's a program called Invest Southwest, which our team also manages. That's $1.4 billion invested in 10 different neighborhoods. We're saying, hey, Stephanie, as you consider growing and expanding your footprint, you might want to consider one of these neighborhoods, because you have a huge apartment building that, we're helping, some Black and brown developers build, that has, 96 units on the top, and they have some retail. They need you there. We can have a national retailer, and then maybe you're right next door next to it. Now you've built a self-sustaining community, right? And so, we're making sure that, those types of, like, really inspiring, like, entrepreneurs in our community get the opportunity to be a part of the revitalization and the investment that's happening now that traditionally just hasn't happened in our communities. So, if you're meeting an amenity that we need in the community, you're in an area that is, rapidly growing, and the investment is coming there, I think that you'll be primed for success. And, now, I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't any barriers for minority-owned business, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of programs that's trying to help make sure that, folks get access to the capital, get access to the knowledge, get access to the opportunity, so that they can actually grow and scale instead of being left out.
And Gloria, what do you see on the horizon? Are there any new grants or resources that businesses can take advantage of at We Rise Together?
Well, it's actually a bigger picture, and I think LaForce, said 2 things that are really important: concentration and collaboration. So the first thing is, we are seeing federal dollars coming in; those ARPA dollars are coming in, and so I think, from our perspective, we have seen community organizations working more collaboratively together to think about their projects holistically for their community. And that is really important, because that allows everyone to leverage those federal dollars coming in, building a pipeline of robust projects that will create concentration in a community. And as you said, as you walk through, as you drive through, you actually see change. And we have to have that in enough density to be an engine for a particular community. And that's why we're also, we've selected 10 focused communities and looking to advance 5 neighborhood anchors in each one of those communities. That's enough density, that's enough concentration to actually accelerate progress. So that's part of what we see on the horizon. There are dollars that will be coming in. It is really important that the small businesses are not looking to We Rise directly, but they are looking to their community-based organizations who know them best, and work with those organizations, because they want to collaborate to make sure that as you build your small business, the small business next door to you is also growing, and that community is thinking about, how do we market together? How do we work together to actually bring in more business to our community? So those community-based organizations are critically important to the economic health of our neighborhoods.
Well, LaForce, I want to ask you, how would you describe the path forward to advance economic growth and vitality in this region? And what do you think the focus should be on?
So, Gloria, you actually set up a perfect segue because you talked about marketing the community. I do think that there's a huge missed opportunity, in marketing the amazing culture, assets in our communities, particularly on the south and west side of the city and Black and Latinx communities. So, I think about downtown Chicago. Folks know the bean, right? That attracts them there. That's marketed around the world. People know that it's there. What is the, amenity in Bronzeville, right? I mean, I went to Galleria Gouchard last week in Bronzeville, beautiful place. People don't know about that, I feel, outside of that community. We should be really marketing the assets that already exist there. And then outside of that, changing the narrative, really talking about the investment that is happening today in those communities. You now, for the first time, have 5-star dining in Bronzeville with Bronzeville Winery that just opened there, right? That is going to change the path for that community. The folks in the community are going to feel more pride to actually live there. And then it's going to make it easier for folks like myself that's trying to attract maybe a larger national retailer, because now this community is not just a blip on the map, but now it's a place that it has all this amazing, cultural heritage. Someone wants to come and invest in that, and they want to be a part of that. And we can kind of be that bridge to say, hey, this community, we want to make sure that we're bringing stuff that the community wants. So this community wants maybe a grocery store. This community wants a restaurant. But then also now you, national retailer, or you, smaller business that's looking to grow and expand, now we can connect you to those folks in the community so that you can actually bring the amenity that they want. And so I think that it's a win-win if we can do a better job at marketing the community, sharing that story about the communities. So number one, it changes the narrative because a lot of times these communities are in the news maybe for more negative reasons. But then number two, because it helps attract those that are looking for great places to grow and expand their business.
All right, well, LaForce and Gloria, thank you so much for having this conversation, this very important conversation. I think the work that you're doing is vital, and I think you're really, as you eloquently described before, really helping communities to build wealth and to grow in ways that they have not been able to get access to for generations. And so I applaud the work that you're doing, and I'm glad that more people will see this. They will know about you, they will reach out, and they will find ways to make their dreams come true. So thank you so much. And also thank all of our sponsors who made this symposium possible through your support. Please stay tuned as the symposium begins, the live panel discussion on reimagining entrepreneurship. I'm Michelle Rutherford. Thanks so much for joining us.
Crab Shack restaurant, and she is a true community entrepreneur that grew up on the South Side and have been working in this community for over a decade. We also have with us Cecilia Cuff of the Nascent Group and partner in the Brownsville Winery. Cecilia has been part of nationally. She came back to Chicago in 2021 and partnered with Eric Williams and opened the Brownsville Winery. She has shown that with strategy and persistence that what can be accomplished. We also have Ms. Rhonda McFarland on the panel. Rhonda is Executive Director of the Quad Community Development Corporation, QCDC. She previously was the Vice President of the Community Development Financial Institute, a board member of QCDC, and eventually took over the position of Executive Director. Her expertise in financial management is phenomenal and have been instrumental in changing the community economics of the Bronzeville community. And last but not least, we have on the panel Corey Gilkey. Corey is the founder of Leaders 1354. He expanded from clothing stores to restaurants and manufacturing. He also opened Fry Style Restaurant right in the neighborhood on 51st and Prairie, showing us how to make a successful business in our own community. He has recently bought a block of storefronts in the same neighborhood on 51st Street that will include his flagship facility and include commercial and residential space. Corey has national and international businesses. He does not just talk about making things happen, he makes it happen, no matter the social and political brick walls. Each of these entrepreneurs are, as Cecilia Cuff would say, are social impact developers. They care about their community, their people, and advancing economics in underprivileged, underrepresented communities. So why don't we start off, and I'm gonna throw this first question at you, Cecilia, and then I would like everybody to kind of jump in and give us their comments. You've all started and run successful businesses. Walk us through your thought process, because everyone has an idea, but making it work is a whole different thing. Cecilia?
Thank you so much, Sandra. I appreciate it. I think for Brownsville Winery, specifically in the Bronzeville neighborhood, it was important for us to invest in our community because there are businesses and spaces. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. There are businesses and spaces in communities all over Chicago and all over the country that are very representative and are beautiful spaces for the city to come together. And I think we wanted to be able to bring that same space to Brownsville, because we wanted to be able to reshape the narrative that people think when they walk down the street of Brownsville. We're a part of a really beautiful collection of businesses on 44th and Cottage Grove that allow people to come from all over the city and to be able to really enjoy themselves, whether they want to go shopping, whether they want to have a healing session or a beauty session. And I think for us in Brownsville Winery helped to round out that experience that is really carefully curated, honestly, for many other parts of the city, like Lincoln Park or like downtown, like Wicker Park. And in Brownsville, we just didn't have that. So Brownsville Winery for us was a way for us to be able to create a dining experience that felt indicative of the community that we live in, and a space that was really necessary to come on the South Side, whether you want to dine indoors, outdoors, happy hour after work, or celebrate a birthday or holiday or have a date night. So it's been really well received, and as a result, we've been able to provide jobs and on-site training to 45 people from the neighborhood. We're able to create another level of service and be able to create Black sommeliers, to be able to create hospitality hopefuls who haven't really had the opportunity to learn about fine dining or to learn about upscale dining experiences. So for us, the strategy was kind of what appointed the outcome. And the reason was we were really shooting to be able to create those jobs, create those opportunities, not only for the people who live in the neighborhood and the community, but also for people who wanted to learn and be able to have a skill that they didn't necessarily need college to access.
And how about you, Yasmin? I know it wasn't easy starting a business in the neighborhood, but like I said, I drove by your place last night and it was really packed. It's always packed. You can hardly ever get in there.
Hi, Sandra. Okay, thank you so much. In terms of like Bronzeville and starting a business in Bronzeville, like there's no other community that I actually would have done that at. One, because I think that the narrative, Bronzeville stretches, has a lot of different pockets. There are a lot of different economic pockets inside of Bronzeville. So there is a narrative that is portrayed to Bronzeville like it's this dilapidated area. But unfortunately, I don't think that what is the narrative that what is not being painted is that Bronzeville is not what a dilapidated neighborhood or so forth and so on. The homes in Bronzeville are beautiful. The homes that they're building in Bronzeville are beautiful. They're well over $700,000 at this point in order to live in Bronzeville. So with that there does bring a different type of consumer, people who want to come out and dine into their community, who want to have a walkable community. So because of that, the new businesses are thriving. Because of that, we will thrive in that community because of the economic development that is there. So for a reason, that is one of the reasons why I started my business in Bronzeville. I live in a community. Well, actually, I live in Hyde Park, so I've always lived within steps of Bronzeville. I grew up not too far from like when it was not actually considered Bronzeville as a younger as a child. So to see the transformation and to understand the study of the families that are moving into the community and the homes that are being built into the community, it is very attractive to, new businesses to come into the community now to make sure that they are reaping some of those economic dollars that is coming into the community. So I decided that because I live in the community, and not live too far from it, that I definitely was going to be one of the first businesses outside of Norman's, Corby and I, those like, we started when it was not popular. So it was very hard for us, and Corey can attest to that. So it wasn't the popular place to be. And now, it's kind of different. It's a lot different now than what it was when we started. How long ago was it, Corey, when you started?
2017.
Yeah, so we started in 5 or 6 years ago. It wasn't that popular then.
Yeah, and
So,
Corey,
but that's
yeah, and you're right. The neighborhoods, you all make the neighborhood thrive. And Corey, I remember when he opened up Fry Styles, is that nobody thought he would make it on 51st Street. Did they, Corey?
They still don't. They like, why you got this great restaurant over here? I'm like, man, okay, we got to do it. But they still travel from all over.
Yeah. But you are successful in what you're doing with your projects. So, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, I'm successful because of the Boxville initiative that we took the shipping container community where we were able to grow. I was a retailer my whole life, and I wanted to get in food because I always wanted to come back and do community work. What do our people need in our community is food, clothing, and shelter. And that's why the development of Policy Kings, we're going to offer that also. But I want to start getting in food. So I interned with Chef Didier Duran at the market at the river that was downtown. He let me come in and he taught me the food business. And I met Bernard Lloyd with Karan Johnson. And it was one container, and gave him a concept of the shipping container community that I saw in London and that I saw in Toronto. And we built Boxville. And from there, I was cooking fries out of his den restaurant called the Jerk Shack, which was not doing well. And he allowed me to use the kitchen. And I started creating a concept with some friends of mine that were chefs and in the culinary business. And people were going crazy over the fries. And so he leased me out his restaurant, and that's what Freestyle started from. And then, we're there from now. We're here right now because of that. And now, we just posted that we're leaving October 31st. I can't say now, but we're still working on the lease of this new location, as well as us developing our space across the street. We are coming back to 51st Street, but we're able to grow. And now it's the same of us passing the torch to a smaller restaurant that's in Boxville or to a smaller culinary brand to come into this space and grow just like we grew. And from us buying a property across the street and growing, putting our restaurant back there, and this new person coming in and building this, taking over the space where we were at Freestyle. Now it's just more and more of these food concepts and more of these entrepreneurs coming in the community. So somebody told me yesterday, they was like, you know what, we're going to be all right. It took a while, and it's taken a little while, but 51st Street, 47th Street, 43rd, 39th, we're going to be okay. So, and that's given to the people who took that leap of faith to come out and start and be in a community where the banks and other people were like, why would you go in this neighborhood? Like, no one's there. These people only make $25,000 or $30,000 a year. When, the data is all wrong. They still have to eat. We still have to eat to survive. And we need different things without giving us high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And so that's why, Two Fish and, Freestyle and Skitos. You know, it's just a bunch Truffle House down the street. You see a bunch of restaurants coming down the street on that corridor, going towards Michigan Avenue, coming in and doing these better concepts of food, and is more healthier for our people in our community.
And I'm so happy about you being there also, because as executive director of the 51st Street Business Association, I always believe that the businesses have to come into the neighborhood in order for the neighborhood to change and to thrive. And Rhonda, you know that better than anybody, because you have been doing this work for so long. And as community organization, I know you see what I see in relationship to changing our community through entrepreneurship.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rhonda. So tell us about some of the work you've been doing, because I mean, you have done so much in the Brownsville community.
Okay, good morning. As Sandra said, I am with Quiet Communities Development Corporation, also known as QCDC. And for those that don't know us, we are a community and economic development agency that's been working in the greater Brownsville area, 3rd and 4th Ward, for 19 years. And most recently have really doubled down on our work related to attracting small businesses, primarily to our community, and working with real estate owners and developers to assure that we have strong and sustainable businesses that come into the community and continue to support our other partners like Yasmin and Corey, who have been here. So we work very hard to do a balance of supporting the existing business owners who, quote, have trailblazed or rolled out the heavier part of the storm, along with bringing in new partners like Cecilia and Eric with the winery, who have the right kind of community spirit to support and partner with the existing businesses, and ideally have the respect for the community that they're coming in, and understand that we already have a beautiful, thriving community, and you're joining that family. So that's our goal and our mission at QCDC as it relates to this work. Over the last 3 years, we have identified tenants and got leases, and tenants and businesses that are in place are coming for over 20,000 square feet throughout the South Side, primarily in Bronzeville. We're working with an additional 3 or 4 other property owners. And what we find is the challenge and opportunities are on both sides. They're on the real estate side and they're on the business owner side. Our first thing is to get to whoever that has that site control, that property owner, and work with them to understand that just leasing your space is not effective. The goal is that, excuse me, the goal is that we have sustainable businesses. And as a property owner, your goal is to get a check every month that pays your rent. Well, if the business is not sustainable, then you're putting that at risk. So there is a value for a property owner or a new developer to invest in assuring that the tenants that come to their space are sustainable and have business models, have financial resources, have the right professionals with them, have the right marketing plan, and have a team behind them to continue to help them thrive and grow in their new space. And on the business owner side, it's the same general concept, but from an opposite perspective. You don't just go sign a lease and move in, and the old saying, build it and they shall come concept. One, you need to make sure that particular location is the right location for your business model. We have so many businesses that fall in love with brick and mortar, go into a space that never was appropriate for the business product or services that they are selling. Excuse me. So we like to work with our business owners from that standpoint, and to the best of our ability, help create communities, small communities within the business community. So if there's one block and there are 7 businesses, we want those 7 businesses to think of themselves as a mall and market their sales that way and promote their sales and support each other. And we're here to provide as much guidance, support, and professional assistance as is needed, whether that is internal to our organization or through our external consulting partners.
And speaking of the leasing of tennis space, what do you think, Rhonda, is the main reason that businesses are unable to lease space in our different communities?
That's a loaded question and it has many answers. Specifically in the corridors that we work in, we don't have a lot of space that is ready to be occupied. We have vacant space that needs significant rehab or investment. We have quite a bit of vacant space. We have landlords who may not be community-based, and that creates another set of challenges just from the site piece. From the business owner's piece, it's just being prepared to sign a lease, being prepared to operate a business. Do you have financials? Do you have a business plan? Do you have working capital for whatever period? And that all is subject to, is this your first brick and mortar location? Is this an additional location, or are you moving an existing building from location A to location B? All of those questions then lead to different answers or different paths to success. And those are some of the basic things at the very highest level that cause challenges in a commercial leasing opportunity.
Which would brings me back to a question for all of our entrepreneurs here today. What challenges did you face along the way? And I know many of you all have had many challenges. Corey and I have had many discussions about the different challenges. So, I mean, just jump in, someone. Tell us some about the challenges you've had. Cecilia?
Ladies,
Absolutely. No, I mean, I think the challenges are the challenges that any business owner would have. I would say for Brownsville Winery specifically, it was difficult for us to gain support for us to do the project where we were doing it. When we were going to the banks and said, the banks will remain nameless, but when we went to the banks and said, we would like to open up this concept in this neighborhood, they didn't understand because they would pull up Bronzeville or 44th and Cottage Grove on a map and say, well, this is what's here. We see a dollar store across the street. We see, these pictures, we see this news, but in the actuality, the banks that are looking up these addresses are in Cleveland, Ohio, and that's where their credit departments are. So, without us having those community banking partners that understand what the momentum is that the QCDC has created on 44th and Cottage Grove, or understand what an Invest Southwest corridor is, or understand the community investment that goes into that space, it's difficult to gain funding or support for funding. So that was a particular challenge that Brownsville Winery had. We applied for nameless grants through other community partners and were declined based on, based on criteria that we weren't sure about. I don't think a traditional community growth or wealth building model as a restaurant when people think about it in a traditional sense. But at this time, we can say that our servers make more than many of the servers at Alinea, and those are people that are walking to work. So for us, those factors that we knew leading into the project, that it was from a funding standpoint, banks or grantees in the neighborhood or the community didn't understand. And so it was difficult for us because I think for us, we knew that entrepreneurship is the driving factor towards creating wealth in our communities. So I would say funding was definitely our biggest challenge.
I know, Corey, you want to jump in on this challenge piece.
no, not really. We've been blessed, honestly, Sandra. I mean, besides, to have this space that we have, we were coming from, that's why I wanted to do community development. That's why I interned at Boxville to get back in, because my store location is in West Loop. It's one of the best neighborhoods that you can be in right now. And I moved there from River North. So I had to adapt and be transparent with poor, with middle class, and with successful people. And it was a challenge at first of dealing with a person or people that may not have the certain situation that you're in, who have not traveled or, had diverse food and things of that nature. And, people will come up to me and tell me at events or pop-ups that, hey man, I'm not coming to 51st Street. I love your food. I think it's amazing. I'm not coming there at all. And you have to just constantly show and tell and give great customer service and, keep moving and market. And one day those people will come one day. We just have to stay focused. But that was it for me, just adapting to a different neighborhood. Different neighborhoods have their challenges, and you have to be transparent with all types of people instead of successful people in certain neighborhoods, basically.
Yeah. Did you find that true, Yasmin?
I do. I find that very true. Just having different groups, just different friend groups of people who just will flat out say, like, I'm not coming on 47th Street. I saw this in the news yesterday. I saw this at some place yesterday. And I can definitely speak to, not being able to receive capital from a bank and actually having the funds, having 20% or more in the bank of what it was that I was asking for. The underwriter told me flat out, and I the bank will rename was flat out said, 40 zip codes is in. It does not make this type of revenue. Is there anywhere else where you're putting the money in? Is it coming in from anywhere else? And they denied the loan for that. So I've faced a lot of different challenges as it goes to like different capital, environmental challenges, socioeconomic challenges. But I think that those things it just fuels the fire to make sure that you can definitely overcome, all of them. So the business has been successful. We've continued to grow in different type of ways. So yeah, I've been blessed. Like, I'm happy with our kids. Like, I'm happy, and I just continue to, work the business.
And I do know that Corey and I work very close together on 51st Street. I'm so happy he's doing this larger project. As a matter of fact, we've got 3 African-American developers doing work on 51st Street. And I'm just so, but I think, Rhonda, that is, and I think you would want to talk about the fact that businesses, entrepreneurs definitely have to work very closely with community groups like ours too, because we are all making the change in those neighborhoods at the same time. Wouldn't you think so, Rhonda?
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting. I wasn't part of arranging this panel, but we work very closely with Cecilia and Yasmin. And two of the things that I will say is, and I think they'll both agree, is every business owner, every professional should have multiple teams. Yasmin just said multiple friend groups. Whatever you call them, I call them teams. I have a team for everything. And those team members are going to get you through those changes. Yasmin and I had some very direct, painful, challenging conversations through COVID and move forward. And those may have been conversations that she couldn't have with other groups that may not have been related. So you have to have a variety of people on your team to get you through those challenges. The opening panel was fantastic, and Mr. Baker from World Business Chicago spoke a great deal about the programs that World Business Chicago has related to small businesses and economic development. But I'll go further to say that the place-based organizations like QCDC, Southeast Chicago Commission, 51st Street Business Association, South Shore Chamber, Greater Chatham Initiative, and I can go on and on. There are more than 70 of us, are high quality organizations in our community that are here to support you, that understand what is happening on the block, when it's happening, that live in our community. We work very hard to balance the number of business owners that we can bring in the community who, one of our targets is, can they walk to their business? And of the 8 business owners that are in the 4400 Grove project, 5 of them can walk to the business from their home. That's a different kind of commitment when you know what is happening around you and with those challenges on a highly local level. So yes, community-based partners. We are a nonprofit, but I'm running a business, and those of us who
Right.
work with me at QCDC know that we operate like a business, and that's how we want to support our local partners as they go through all the challenges that every single business in the city is having. And quite frankly, the Bronzeville area, we're actually fortunate. Our business losses and closures were much lower than the city average, and then thriving, but they made it through COVID and now they're trying to come back up. And I think the thing that we're all challenged with right now is just the crisis of hiring. And that's our next thing that we're collectively trying to deal with is how do all of our business owners get good quality, lasting employees in the community who
Yeah.
understand what they're doing and will, support, as Corey said, that high level of customer service.
And just thinking about what has been mentioned by each of our entrepreneurs and on the panel, I'm sure that some of the new entrepreneurs are interested in finding out how do you have a new concept like the winery or fry styles and attract capital? How do you attract the capital? I mean, because Cecilia, you had mentioned that it's not always easy to get money. Corey has always also said the same thing, as well as Yasmin. So you got a new concept. You're not on the north side, you're on the south side in the neighborhood. So how do you attract that capital?
I think the biggest factor is understanding that you're not alone in the journey to try to open your doors. There's so much community support that allows you to have all the materials that you need, whether it be the financial pieces that you need to be able to approach a bank to get a loan. I would say Bronzeville Winery wouldn't exist without us being able to lean on the QCDC and Rhonda's team to be able to speak to our landlord about, how moving into the space or accessing the space. I think understanding that the Department of Planning from Chicago has so many incredible initiatives to be able to support these communities on the south and west sides. The Invest Southwest initiative is huge in being able to create funding and opportunity for small businesses. I think World Business Chicago is doing great work. The Chicago Community Trust as well is doing great work in being able to reinvest in these communities. So there are resources that are available now. But mostly I think it's starting with a financial and sound business plan is make sure your concept works from a number standpoint and then work from there.
And Sandra, let me jump in real quick on this financing and banking side. As a recovering commercial lender, I'm always challenged with, yes, we have real problems with getting debt in our community. This is not new, so I won't repeat that. But what I will say is an opportunity for business owners is one, establish a banking relationship before you going into a bank and working with a teller is not a banking relationship. So make time and make that a priority that you go in and you find out who is the small business lender, who is the quote relationship manager at that bank. If they don't have someone and there's no one to talk to, no one to introduce to be concerned about your business, that may not be the institution you want to have your deposits in. And the reality, I think Cecilia said the underwriter was in Cleveland. Our large banks are national and most of their departments aren't going to be local. So consider some of the smaller local financial institutions that may not have all the bells and whistles, but they may be the places that will help you because they understand your community because they're based in the community. But I cannot overemphasize the importance of establishing a banking relationship that is human to human, so that when you get to the point that you need to borrow, you have that relationship and you also start asking what their criteria and their underwriting are before you need to be there so you can prepare. The same applies for all of the incentive programs that the city has, the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, the new Recovery Act. Look at those applications, look at the keywords before you're applying so that you're making sure you're hitting all of those bogeys on their quote scoring.
Yeah. And Corey, you did things, I know you went to the banks, but you were developing some partnerships too, right, Corey?
Well, which one? Partnerships with,
With like the Policy Kings. How did you pull the Policy Kings together?
well, James Doherty, a successful real estate broker, is a good friend and been a customer of mine for 20 years. And he's been on me like, hey, can I invest in leaders? Can I do this? He just loves the brand. And I was like, man, be quiet, whatever. And then, you know, this building showed up and was like, hey, it's time. You want to do this? And he was like, man, I couldn't wait for you to tell me to do that. But to go back to the question of how do we finance things, I always finance my own projects with my profits from my store. My store has been hugely successful for the last 20 years. And I took profits from that by having a great accounting, and I invested into, you know, Freestyle, which was a Generation B restaurant. It was a failed restaurant, and it was easy for me to take over. I didn't have to do an ANSOS system or a hood like, you know, Cecilia and Yasmin, and the other restaurants. So when Rhonda was like, the startup of building out, when you have to build out these spaces in Bronzeville, it's a huge responsibility and investment. I didn't have to do that. I could buy some pots, some knives, I had to hire, and you know, I grew my business that way. So it was just about really figuring it out and problem solving an issue of coming up with this concept and idea of how I could take this little bit of money and really grow a brand. We're already marketers, so we did great marketing. Which trusted from a community of people in neighborhoods from the Leaders brand. So people came and tried my restaurant. They just absolutely loved it. So I always finance myself. I bet on myself because banks have always told me no for 20 years. So we bank at Hyde Park Bank, Wintrust. We put maybe $15 to $17 million in there 20 years. They just gave me a $100,000 line of credit. And then they just told me we would not invest in retail. And we have two of the best footwear brands that are our partners, Nike and Adidas. Both of them are going to do $70 billion this year, and we have a piece of that. Like, these are our partners, and they're telling us no. So it's wild. Just bet on yourself, basically, until you get to that point where you may meet a bank representative or a specialist. You may get lucky to get one of those guys, but they're still telling us no. But our success also is dealing with Cecilia Cuff and the Nascent Group. Her team and what she does as a consultant alleviates my stress and everything with all the paperwork and all of the problems that we see that I honestly could never do. And I would have really given up on the development and everything if it wasn't for her and her team also. And Sandra, your support also of what you're doing and helping us be able to buy that property on 51st Street. You know, that was a huge secret. No one knew that property was for sale until you told us that. And then I alerted James Doherty, my partner, and we got on the ball and had our own money from profits that I had the last 2 years, because the last 2 years have been some of the best years my brand and store has ever had, as well as restaurant. So we took all of that money and put our money together to buy that property cash. And the banks are still telling us no, even though we own the property. So it's wild out here, y'all. So just stay focused, get a team together. And if you need help, the Nascent Group and Cecilia Cuff, she will help you also.
And she does. She's working with another one of our developers on 51st Street. That's going to be doing a big development on the 51st Estate. She's a great lady. So basically, what are some lessons you have learned that you would like to maybe share with our audience? Yasmin, let's start with you.
Okay, you just have to tell me exactly which lesson you want to know. You want to know the lesson about friendship. You want to know the lesson about banking. You want to know the lesson about operations. So give me.
I know there's a lot of social and political aspects. Yeah.
So I'm like, give me the lesson that you're looking for. What I will say about, and I'll just piggyback off of the conversation that was just had, is that like a lot of stuff that you're doing, you do need support for. And I think that having the right conversations with the right people in terms of, like Corey says, he was having a conversation with Cecilia. You want to make sure that you have the conversation with the right person that can actually help you. Because as an entrepreneur, you're having conversations with people to help you get an idea off of the ground. And you're met with a lot of pushback. And you're already at you just idealistic, like I can do this. And then to have a conversation with someone who was not as beneficial as you might perceive them to be, then you're receiving a lot of pushback. So it kind of sets you further. So you just want to make sure that you're having the right conversations with the right people and make sure that you can determine that a lot faster so that you don't waste any time. So don't waste time and make sure that you're speaking to the right person.
What would you say to that, Cecilia? Because I know with you working nationally, you bump heads probably all over this country with challenges and struggles.
It's true. I think that the biggest lesson for me learned is to be a good steward of the community. As long as your heart is in the right place, I don't think that you will ever, actually, I can't say that. As long as your heart is in the right place and you have good business sense, you will always be successful. I think Eric and I, when we opened Brownsville Winery, we didn't open it because we want to make money. We want to make a bunch of money in the neighborhood. We didn't open it because we want to have a fancy restaurant or have a lot of publicity. We opened it because it was what our community needed and we wanted to grow the people in our community from a workforce standpoint. So, and we needed a place to be able to come together. So I do believe that as long as you are a good steward of the community, you will find people like Brownsville QCDC, you will find people, like some of the community partners, the 51st Street Business District, if you all support projects that are good for the community. So as long as your heart is in the right place, you'll be able to find those good community partners, and those people will never let you fail.
And I do believe Rhonda and we work very hard with trying to bring not just any new business into the community, but the right fit of new businesses into the community. Would you say that, Rhonda?
Absolutely. And we've got three of the most stellar business owners here, and they set a tone that we want everyone else to have. But I do want to say that the goal is that they make money, and we shouldn't shy away from saying that making money is the goal. And so we want them to make money. We want them to do good. Cecilia has heard me say many times the concept of put your oxygen mask on first and then support others. So if your first goal is that your business is thriving, that you're paying your employees, you're providing a high quality goods and services, then you can do something else. We did hear earlier about the social impact, just being in the community, making that commitment against the challenges that these three have mentioned that are internal and external, and being successful is a huge commitment, donation, and contribution to the neighborhood. And so as we talk to other thriving and up and coming business owners that hopefully are in the audience today, I just want to emphasize that the three here didn't start yesterday. They're not new business owners. So what you're hearing them say is after many years of experience. So don't think that you've got to do all of this stuff up front. Your first goal is to have a thriving, surviving business that provides jobs, services in the community, and echoes exactly what the three have said about having the right people on your team, listening to the right people for each subject matter. And if you go to someone and ask them how to cure cancer and they don't have a MD behind their name, you're talking to the wrong person. Make sure you're talking to the right person and that you're getting those resources. For every one business that we lose, it costs us the next 3 businesses. So it's really critical for us that everyone is successful and can continue to grow so that we can help the community. But the first thing is to make sure your business is priority and successful.
And I did want to just briefly wanted you all to touch on the political aspects of starting your businesses in these different communities? How did you all find you worked with that aspect? Because there are always some politics involved. Anyone want to jump in? Cecilia, you probably you have had more experience than many.
From a political standpoint, I think the aspects are, I think Rhonda spoke to it best when she said, find who your community partners are, who are your relationships with the banks. Number one, from a political standpoint, is always going to be money. So being able to have that banking partner who's going to rally for you is really important. And we were lucky to be able to find that, but only until after, we were able to get some funding from the city of Chicago from the Invest Southwest initiative. I think without having Mayor Lori Lightfoot actually do a call to action at our groundbreaking ceremony to say, this is a Black business that needs funding, were banks even willing to talk to us? So, I think, again, that goes back to the Department of Planning. If you're able to access some of the Invest Southwest dollars and some of that funding by applying for the programs that are in those Invest Southwest neighborhoods and corridors, that at least gives you a running start that you're able to leverage that. I think from a political standpoint, having the Department of Planning in the city of Chicago and using and leveraging their tools from a development standpoint is really important. But again, it goes back to being able to access and leverage your community partners. And a lot of times the QCDCs of the world and in everybody's neighborhood are the people that are going to help you to make those connections and figure out where to look. So I think it's just leveraging that funding.
Well, as we wind down, can you guys just give us a little insight of what entrepreneurs that want to start a new concept or have a new ideal and trying to start their businesses, can you give them any input as to how they can make it happen? Now, I know it's taken years for you guys to get to the point that you are, but some folks are just starting, or some folks have been around for a number of years and don't know what the next step should be. You have any input for those type of entrepreneurs? Don't everybody jump in at one time.
Yasmin, you on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So make sure you have a clean heart, that you're focused on providing jobs, and you're focused on, community development. And with those things, you will definitely, you'll be, I can't predict the success of your business, but it will more likely be successful than not. If you're focused on making sure that you have a good product, clean heart, and that you do things the right way.
Okay. Corey?
I would say as a startup right now, man, it's so utilize free marketing. No one's going to invest unless you have family members, or it's not going to be a bank. You're not going to, like, if you look at all the grants, they want 2-3 years of you operating, being in business. So focus on yourself and your brand, market the best way, focus on your product, your customer service, your team, develop your team, because you're not getting bank loans or grants if you don't have a team, if you don't have salaries of paying people. That's the most successful business that we talk about, is like how we support our teams. I don't call them employees, I call them teams. The people that work with us, we all work together. Those are the most valuable assets to your business. If you can help them grow and give them an opportunity to buy a home, get a car, and better their lives, that's a true entrepreneur. But it's going to take years to get to that point. So develop your team so that you guys all grow together, and them be willing to help you with your concept and believing in your concept to grow. That's the most important thing from leaders and freestyle, is that my chef just bought his first home, 3 months ago. Yeah. That's the most important thing to me, and to inspire his family. And now his wife loves me even more to say, hey, keep working with Corey, don't look for another job, So that's entrepreneurship to me. Just stay focused, fight every day. There's nothing we can tell you of what to problem solve. You're going to have problem solve issues on a daily when things happen. It's just, like Yasmin said, like those relationships, garner those relationships with who you have, that guy who's your plumber, the HVAC, or that your designer, and focus on your industry, be keen in on your industry. So we have 3 industries that we work in right now. So we're developers, so we focus on government and politics and development right now with those people like Donnell Digby, Guion Foreman, Norm. Now we're in the hospitality business, so Gordon is our food distributor. We have Fortune Food, so many, all the chefs like Juan Kim at Kimski's and Spencer at Triple Crown are friends, like they are brothers. So when I need something done, I could just call them to get me, plum sauce that I can't find at Restaurant Depot. The product, focus on your product. So that's what say, invest in that and market those things and stay true to your brand, and you'll be all right.
Great point, Cecilia.
I mean, I don't think people should expect it to happen overnight, as Corey alluded to. You got to keep fighting. I think business looks glamorous on social media. It looks glamorous on television, but every day is just it. You have to fight every day, stay positive, and it will happen. So I think just stay positive and keep fighting.
How about you, Rhonda?
I'll echo what all the partners said, and I'll add to knowing your product, knowing what your product and service is, having a plan, and also being committed to learning forever, being a lifetime learner. We have a line, if you didn't learn something today, it wasn't a good day. And what I do find with a lot of our small business owners and those who really are just getting started, that they don't understand that every single day they need to be learning, they need to be stretching themselves, leave your community, go to another neighborhood and see what that business has, go south, go west, have car will travel, do investigations, read the cranes, watch Chicago Tonight, understand what is going on in the market, listen to the daily business rundown with PBS, whatever it is, whatever that source is, that's a qualified source of information. Continue your learning and your technical skills. And the more you learn, the better you will be able to identify the appropriate partners for your team. If you don't have a little bit of knowledge of accounting and finance, how do you hire the right accountant and CPA? If you don't have a little bit of knowledge about the type of business structures, legal structures you should have, C Corp, S Corp, LLC, so on and so forth, then how do you hire the right attorney to represent you? And that is a big part of knowing and doing that homework. And then to Corey's point, investing in yourself, because knowledge, you can never lose it. That's the points that I'll leave with.
Well, I think that the key thing that I hope all entrepreneurs receive is that you have to develop those relationships. And I think you each have emphasized that over and over again, not just with the banks, but like Corey said, with your plumber or whoever it's going to take that you're going to be working with for the next several years. I think that it's also important that your chef bought his home and his wife love you to death, because those were the things that we used to live with, where we built relationship with our employees, where our employees grew with the business, which is why we were able to retain our employees. So I think those are some of the key things that you all have given us today. And I would like to thank each and every one of you, Cecilia Cuff, Yasmin Curtis, Corey Gilkey, Ron McFarland. I just think you guys are just some of the greatest people out here, and that you are our future. And I hope that if you all will come back and join us again to further discuss entrepreneurship and how people can begin to move forward. And we just thank you so much for being part of our panel of Reimagining Entrepreneurship, because you guys, you took us there. And I hope that our audience will make sure that they support and come out to each and every one of your facilities. Rhonda, QCDC is always there for you. Myself at the First Street Business Association and the Southeast Chicago Commission are there to help each and every one of the entrepreneurs. And we'd like to thank you all again for being with us this morning. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Sandra. Everybody else, appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you for joining the panel. Wasn't that a great panel we just listened to? That was fantastic. Thank you, Sandra Bivens, for leading that panel. That was really informative. And I'm so grateful to have been able to participate and listen in on that panel. So next up is the Procurement Opportunities in Chicago's New Development. So we have joining us and featuring three developments that we'll talk about this morning. I'm Phaedra Leslie. I am the Vice President of Workforce Development, Diversity, and Community Engagement for All Construction Group. And I am also an officer and board member of the Southeast Chicago Commission. So actually, I want to introduce our panel. So I'm actually going to start with Brownsville Lakefront and Kimberly B. Morris. So Kimberly is Director of Real Estate and Community Development. And for 10 years, Kimberly has been managing economic development opportunities and helping community organizations and the city of Chicago support small businesses, create jobs and revitalize under-resourced and disinvested neighborhoods. At CNI, Kimberly is helping to build client and community relationships and design its development strategy and activities. She's also working to generate support for citywide opportunities and initiatives, as well as managing all aspects of CNI's construction projects. Kimberly, would you like to give us a quick overview of the Bronzeville Lakefront property project?
Sure. Good
Thank you
morning,
so much.
everybody. Super excited to be here. Thank you, SECC, for inviting me to speak on today's panel. Bronzeville Lakefront, a super exciting project that I am personally very excited to be a part of. A 100-acre mixed-use, mixed-district development that is designed both with health equity, environmental sustainability, and social impact in mind. And so located right, if everybody is aware, kind of where the old Michael Reese site used to be, we are expanding on what used to be there, which was the hub of innovation, science, technology, medicine, and then again, tapping into the legacy of what Bronzeville is with arts and culture. This Bronzeville Lakefront project is looking to expand upon that legacy in our regeneratively designed, walkable, inclusive, live, work, play community that'll be a destination far beyond the borders of Bronzeville and to the greater South Side in the city of Chicago. So I'll keep it brief right there. Just super excited to be here this morning and talk more about the project.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Next, I'm going to introduce the One Central team. So I'll start with Stuart Zadra. So Stuart Zadra is an executive vice president. I'm sorry, my camera's not on. Executive vice president and partner of Landmark Development. Stuart has been creative in the real estate development industry for 33 years with Landmark for 23 of those years. Stuart is responsible for managing the development, financing, design, construction, marketing, and operations of major mixed-use projects throughout the United States. Stuart has a broad base of experience in the development of mixed-use and hospitality products and project management for sports, entertainment, and corporate clients. Stuart was Landmark's project director for the Lambeau Field redevelopment and expansion for the Green Bay Packers. We won't hold that against you.
Don't go there.
Will not hold that against you. And other properties, including the University of Wisconsin-Madison. We will not hold that against you either. The Center for Executive, the Madison-Flona Center for Executive Education and Los Angeles Stadium at Grand Crossing. Thank you and welcome, Stuart. I'd also like to introduce Calmetta Coleman, joining the One Central project. Calmetta Coleman is Chief Operating Officer of the Chicago Urban League. She's responsible for ensuring efficient operations across the organization, overseeing programs, providing strategic leadership for external affairs, and helping to execute the vision of the president and CEO. She previously served as Executive Vice President of External Affairs and Programs. Welcome to you both. And I believe one of you will be sharing an overview of the One Central project. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be happy to do that. Cometta, I can jump in here. So thank you, SECC, for inviting us. Welcome to join our panelists here. One Central is a transformative development between McCormick Place up to McFetridge. If you know the Metro Weldon Yard at 18th Street, it's across the street from Soldier Field over to Mark Twain Park. That 34 acres of land runs 3,200 feet. And the design is to create a transit-oriented development that nets together Metra, CTA, Amtrak, something we call the Shy Line, and brings all transit-related development to that location to allow access and better opportunity from the south and west sides into the city, into the loop. In time, that'll spur the development of up to 20 million square feet, create 19,000 jobs, construction jobs, and over 70,000 permanent jobs in One Central. Cometta, do you have anything to add?
No, not at this time.
I'll keep it that brief.
Stuart.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stuart and Calmetta. Next, I have the Bally's Casino team. And I'll introduce Jerry first, and then I will introduce Tracy, and Tracy will give the overview, the project overview. So Jerry Harris is Area Director of Economic Inclusion for Gilbane's Chicago Business Unit. In this position, Jerry seeks to strengthen relationships and partnerships in the Chicagoland community and meet and exceed diversity targets at a critical moment in Gilbane's history. Jerry joined Gilbane on the heels of its historic effort to generate $4 billion in awards over 5 years to certified minority and women-owned businesses, also known as MWBEs, to disadvantaged and veteran business enterprises, DBEs and VBEs, as part of a comprehensive economic inclusion strategy. Tracy Wiley is the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Casino and Resorts at Bally's Corporation. Tracy joined the Bally's team as a consultant while working on projects in Virginia in 2021. Based on the company's continuing opportunity to engage diverse communities in the cities and states where they do business, her role became more integrated in the business strategy, and she assumed a permanent role in 2022. We're glad you're there. Prior to joining the team, Wiley had completed 2 consecutive gubernatorial appointments in Virginia as the Director of Development of Small Business and Supplier Diversity for the Commonwealth. Welcome to you both. And Tracy, I'll turn it over to you to give a quick project overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Phaedra. Hopefully you can hear me clearly. Great. It's been so great to be able to be in contact with all of you all, to hear the great presentations this morning. So I want to thank the Southeast Chicago Commission for allowing Bally's and our team to be able to present this morning. We're super excited about the Bally's Chicago project. As most of you all may already know, it's a $1.7 billion flagship destination casino with entertainment and hotel, which will be our permanent facility located on the 30-acre lot where the Chicago Tribune Publishing Center near Chicago Avenue and Halsted Street is where that will be located. We're looking forward to 3,400 slides, 173 tables, 10 food and beverage venues, and a 500-room hotel. And that's for the permanent facility. And so what we're currently prioritizing is the Medina Temple, which I understand has had a couple different facelifts. We hope this one will be the best so far, in River North, which will be our temporary facility with 800 gaming positions and food and beverage offerings. The temporary facility project is around $770 million in construction and slated for completion in 2023, and then the permanent facility of several years after in 2026. And we're just really excited that, you know, our goal is that the casino will reflect the best of Chicago, as it relates to arts, culture, food, and sports. So we're ready to get started. I know that Jerry may have a little more to say about that in terms of our work on the temporary facility.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. And I echo Tracy's sentiments in regards to the earlier presentations. They were excellent, and we are certainly in good company. Tracy mentioned the temporary casino, which I am showcasing behind me, which will be at the beautiful landmark here in Chicago, the Medina Temple. And we are very excited, we being the Chicago Community Builders Collective, the CCBC, which is serving as the construction manager for the Bally's Casino project, the 9-member joint venture partnership. So we are very excited to be serving the community and looking forward to this exciting project.
Thank you so much. So this panel is about procurement opportunities. So let's just get into it, why don't we? So I was thinking about all of your projects, and I'm gonna start with Bronzeville Lakefront because we're Southeast Chicago Commission. That's a little bit closer to home. So Kimberly, can you talk to us a little bit about the procurement opportunities? I mean, I guess maybe start with the schedule. So what can we expect? How soon? What's the timeline look like? And what would be the first opportunities that our entrepreneurs and local business partners should get ready for?
Yes, and so as you can imagine, developing 100+ acres is no small feat. It's going to take a long time. So this is a very big project, a big undertaking that we're taking. And so the first thing we have to do in order to kind of create this walkability that we're looking for is do some infrastructure work. And so this is about $60 million worth of infrastructure work that we see kicking off actually beginning of next year. So we have several bid packages, I believe up to 9, and I can kind of run through those. So that'll include demolition and earthwork, wet and dry utilities, concrete, roadway lighting, traffic signals, asphalt, and landscaping and streetscaping. And so those have several schedules, but I kind of start with the ones that we are kind of bidding out first, being the demolition and earthwork, which we're actually looking to bid out next month. So we are getting started on that fairly soon. So again, demolition, earthwork, wet and dry utilities, and the cast and retaining wall along Lake Park Avenue are things that we are starting relatively soon. Again, probably putting those bids out within the next month and looking to award those at the start of next year. And so with that, like I said, we are putting together bid packages for those to go out, working with our current construction manager to get those opportunities out and really doing some intensive engagement with a lot of the minority contractors unions in those communities to make sure that specifically minority contractors know about these opportunities that we have coming up. And so this is again kind of the infrastructure work and what we're starting off with. These are like the most immediate kind of impacts that this will have on the community and kind of things that we think the community needs to get ready for right now.
Thank you for that. Oftentimes when I'm on these calls or I'm sitting in as a contractor, I'm curious, I always hear professional services firms ask about opportunities. So I'll probably ask all of you or want to hear from each of you, or if there's still opportunities for professional service firms or anything outside of construction. I mean, the previous group of entrepreneurs were in retail, restaurant environment. Are there other opportunities besides just hard construction? Are there some other opportunities, Kimberly?
No, absolutely. So we are, a big part of this would be small business development in the entire for the entire Bronzeville Lakefront site. And so we've received a ton of interest. And so what we're trying to work with alongside JLL is building out a small business incubation program, realizing that we have a lot of lead time and before we get to the actual construction of these buildings and the location of these buildings, businesses inside them. And so we want to be able to maximize that lead time. So getting the interest from small business owners that want to locate on this site is something that we're looking to do now. And also, like I said, building out what that small business incubation program looks like. So working with service partners that would help us have support for like lease negotiation, small business development, small business expansion, microfinancing are things that we are currently reaching out to service partners for support for right now. And so we think that this will have a great impact not only on the current small business communities, but in fostering new businesses to grow and develop in the Bronzeville community.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful and really exciting, particularly if there's still some folks who were on the last panel, maybe they can get started having those conversations with you. I know some in the keynote, they talked about gap financing, looking for additional sources of funds. So the microfinancing would be aligned with anyone who's listening who was paying attention to the keynote as well as the second panel. The Bally's team and the One Central team, do you want to talk, either of you can chime in on, what's your schedule looking like for procurement? Where are you starting with procurement, and what are the first few opportunities that'll be coming out? So let's start with Bally's.
Thank you. For the construction procurement, we have had many community outreach sessions. And we've also have information that's posted on the Bally's website for the subcontracting community to know what those opportunities look like. We've had 3 bid package releases for the construction of the temporary casino. The first package was the cut, cap, and make safe and demolition for the interiors. And then we have bid package 2, that was also the MEP and fire protection and doors, frames, and hardware. So those packages are currently being bid out and will look to be awarded for the start of the project. And then bid package release 3 was all of the interior work. And the interior packages will be due back on October 10th. And the electrical scope, which was also earlier, has been pushed to October 21st, which is when that will be due.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Tracy, did you have anything to add? Maybe professional service side or any special programs, targeted programs?
Yeah, Zadra, I'm glad you asked. And I know that our focus primarily has been on design and construction. We want to get the facility ready so that we can open as quickly as possible. Just in general, casinos are like cities. So when we think about professional services, we think that, there are tons of things that we will probably need on the operational side and to get, the business up and running. We have not put those lists together and out yet because we've been prioritizing the construction. But I would expect that, as food is going to be our number one space where we're going to play in terms of contracting opportunities, but there are a number of things in professional services around what small businesses will do for the casino that I think that if we start to build these relationships now, we will be able to invite those businesses in. I will say, in terms of special programs, we do have a program that we have in some of our other properties called Community Rewards, and it's a chance for local businesses to participate in our virtual mall or retail outlet. But it also
that's great.
Yeah, we're excited about it. It does operate in one of our other properties, but it incentivizes the players and the guests to support local businesses based on the rewards that they receive at a casino, that they then get to use those in the local markets at the local businesses. So we're really going to be pushing that pretty soon once we get design and construction up and running and get some people in working and get that going for small businesses.
I have a follow-up question because I love the Medina Temple. And I'm glad that it is being repurposed, even if for temporary use at this point. Will the team be retaining Medina Temple long-term for other purposes as an extension of the casino once the new casino campus is built?
Now, I don't know if Jerry wants to respond to that, or if I don't want to. Let me say this, Zadra. I think that any investment that we put in any building in Chicago, we should figure out new and innovative ways to be able to preserve that. So I would vote for yes, but I'm not on that team that guarantee that community. But I would imagine with that kind of investment that we're making and the people that will, support it, that we will want to make sure that there's some continuous opportunity for the community to enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer. How about the One Central team? Do you all want to talk a little bit about your procurement timeline, your schedule? I think that yours might be the largest planned development in the conversation today.
Phaedra, thank you. Yeah, I'll speak to timing, and then Calmetta, maybe you can talk about our Equity Works program. We are, the one that's going to be the latest to get a shovel in the ground. It's been a 4 or 5 year effort so far to date. We still have a number of approvals from the state, the city. We're continuing to work through our agreements with Metra and CTA. So at the very earliest, we might be turning over leaves, as some of us like to say, maybe in fall of next year, late in 2023. So we're some time away. A lot of design yet to do. We have a lead design team of WSP and Gensler. I would say relative to professional services, if there are firms out there that have interest, we are looking for partnering interest. Feel free to contact myself or Calmetta, and we'll be sure to get you in touch with the prime leads for design, but not only design, but other professional services as well, whether it be marketing, legal, any of those.
Great.
Talk to people. Happy to do that. Let me turn it over to Calmetta. She can speak to our Equity Works program.
Thank you.
Sure. So for the people who might be wondering, why is the Chicago Urban League involved with the One Central project? I will say that when Bob, Don, and Stuart came and approached us over a year ago now, I think it's been, about the project, what we were really interested in was the way that they viewed equity. And what grew out of that was something that we're calling Equity Works, where we're making sure that there is appropriate minority participation, not just on that project, right? But that it's long-term and benefits the community over time. Far too often, big development projects come along and there are promises made about women and minority participation, and you get to the end of the project and sometimes those goals aren't really met. Or our businesses are viewed as not being able to participate in those projects because they don't have proper insurance, they don't have bonding. And so we are working on Equity Works as a way to address all of those things. And so really making sure that we are able to have minorities participate, women participate, because we would actually have, as part of this sort of framework, or what we call an economic development plan, a working capital fund that would support women and minority business participation so that they can be on the projects, to make sure that we are covering their, and this is all privately funded, making sure that we're covering their insurance, their funding, to make sure that there can be real participation from a procurement standpoint. And Stuart already mentioned, yes, it'll go beyond construction. We're thinking about it long-term beyond the project. So even though, we'll be the longest run in terms of getting shovels in the ground, we do expect the impact for minority firms to go well beyond the project.
Great, thank you. And we look forward to hearing more about all of the projects and seeing your plans once you've all formulated your plans for that. I'm glad you mentioned that it's all privately funded, because I was literally just thinking, you're like Amazon or Google, because you read my mind. And I was gonna ask all of you, you know how you're scrolling and then something in your mind all of a sudden shows up and is ready for you to purchase. So when I'm thinking about vacations, all of a sudden I have vacations on my news feed. I need to start thinking about like big sums of money and winning the lottery or something like that. So that shows up on my news feed or in my mailbox bank account. Anyway, so of the other two remaining, the other two projects that we're talking about today or featuring today, Bronzeville Lakefront and Bally's Casino. Can you talk about what the public funding is and how that impacts your approach to procurement opportunities for those projects?
So Phaedra, I'll jump in here. You know, our project is privately funded, fully privately funded.
Fully privately funded, okay.
Yeah, and so of course you all know that there was a $40 million upfront to the city that was paid to help and support public safety and other needs for, you know, building a better community for the city of Chicago. You know, we hope that there's an economic impact of, you know, close to about 21 million based on our player database that will really attract visitors to the city. The project, you know, is projected to really attract over 4.5 million new visitors to the city, and it has about a $21 billion economic impact value. So we're thinking that this is transformative, not just from a standpoint of entertainment and culture, but to be able to reactivate some of the communities that are surrounding it. And I believe that based on what I heard this morning in terms of concentration and collaboration, you know, our goal is to be able to transform some of those communities through some of the strategies that we have around the targets that we've negotiated with the city.
And by target, do you mean the targeted community area? So as I was preparing all my questions, for me, you know, we all define local differently. For me, local could mean my neighborhood, it could mean my ward, it could mean the city of Chicago or the southeast side of Chicago. So when you say target, what does that really mean? Or are you talking about targeted something else in something else?
So it's a little bit of both. I believe that, you know, we're looking at certain neighborhoods in proximity to our project. So we want to be able to impact those communities, and there are set goals around those so that we hire and prioritize city residents. So that's one area of the work. What we talked a lot about is job creation. And so we have goals around hiring for 60% for minority, 45% for women, 5% for veterans, and 5% for people with disabilities. So we want to take a holistic approach to impacting Black and Brown communities, but also impacting those other areas that are closely at the heart of the city. And people with disabilities and veterans are certainly a part of that. The minority investment component, to make sure that there are minorities that get a chance to reap the benefits of the revenue that will come into the city. And so right now, you know, there's 25% women and minority investment opportunity, which I think at last count was somewhere close to 150 million for investors representing Black, Latino, and Asian businesses, you know. And then I think the last part of that, when I say targeted, is we're partnering with many of the community organizations for community engagement, a lot of nonprofits. I have 13 years in nonprofit community, and I know that they need support in varying different ways, especially now based on social impact. So I think target could be described in a lot of different ways in the way that our strategy is built for the project, and we're just looking for those collaborations.
Thank you, Tracy.
And Phaedra, if I may add, Tracy's perspective was from the operational side of the Bally's, and from the construction side, the local is Bally's has committed to the city to have 50% City of Chicago residency and 15.5% CETA residency, which are specific areas within the city as well. So that is one aspect of how local is defined. And in addition, the Bally's and CCBC is committed to 36% MB participation and 10% WB participation. And that would be with certified businesses that are certified with either the City of Chicago or Cook County. So
Yes.
that is also to be added in perspective for local.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Tracy, also for touching on workforce. I'm a workforce practitioner as well. So that's always, this is procurement, but you know, you gotta have people as well. So that's always at the top of my mind. What about the, did I miss anyone? Did anyone else have any other comments on the panel? Kimberly?
Yeah. Going back to your, I guess, original question about how this is financed and funded. This is, what I guess we're really proud of is that this is a joint partnership with the City of Chicago and the GRIT team, being that a large portion of the public infrastructure that'll be going in will be financed through the City of Chicago. And so we know how important that piece is, and how that really sets the tone for the site, and how we really want to get that right. And so we were able to leverage City of Chicago TIF funding, some bond obligations to be able to pay for that. And so we're really grateful for the city for their partnership, for their leadership, and being able to utilize the TIP dollars for what they're supposed to be utilized for, an appropriate utilization of TIP dollars, and supporting the infrastructure and building out the infrastructure for this project. So we're super excited about that. And so with the utilization of those dollars, there are contractual obligations that we have to follow, but we're looking to go way past those. So the basic kind of minority participation is usually 26 and 6. What we've agreed to is 30 MBE and 10% WBE for construction contracting. But we aspire to have a total of 65% of minority-led participation within the total project. And so that includes, again, kind of those contracting opportunities. That includes internships and apprenticeships that we're looking to build into this work as well. And so being that we are developing in a minority community, we want to make sure that it is very reflective of the people who live in that space. And so that is our goal. That's what we're aspiring to.
Thank you for that. So I'm just going to pivot a little bit outside of procurement and ask if you have any programs that will support businesses that maybe it's an indirect impact. So have you contemplated that? Is that part of your plan, your approach, or strategy? That's one question that I have. But then as you were, I can't remember who mentioned it, but someone mentioned including, they had a diverse, a goal for persons with disabilities. Are you engaged at all with entrepreneurs that have self-identified as disabled persons? I think so. In my previous position in another organization, I was on a committee around entrepreneurship for persons with disabilities, because the unemployment numbers are just absolutely disgusting, quite frankly, and how they're able to often move into better incomes is by creating businesses. And so I'm curious, and if you haven't contemplated that, I encourage you. The city has an entire department devoted to working with entrepreneurs. It's part of their small business, but they're partnered with the city's diverse persons with the Office of Persons with Disabilities. So I throw that out there. I know I said 2 questions and I went longer on the second one, but I invite you to keep up with me and jump into the conversation.
Phaedra, I'd love to jump in on at least the second question, because I don't remember the first one.
Okay.
To say, so our role as the Chicago Urban League, for people who don't know, we do a lot of this work already of supporting entrepreneurs as well as helping to build skills for job seekers. And so we have a number of trainings that we offer to, get people not just the soft skills, but those hardcore skills that they'll need to be a part of a construction job or any other, kind of job. As part of the Equity Works program that's essential to One Central, we will have what we call like career pathways that will train people on job skills that will be needed to be a part of not just this project, but other projects beyond that. And specifically for entrepreneurs or people who might want to be an entrepreneur, we're having something that's called the Entrepreneurship Institute, where we will actually work with businesses from startup to kind of help them get going in whatever area it is that they're looking for. We already do this as the Chicago Urban League, but we will actually add this also to this project. So whether they are, I've got a great idea, to I've got a mature business, but I'm trying to figure out how to really take it to that next level, that is a part of this project. And so that's whether they're directly involved on One Central or not. I heard a word earlier that Tracy used that we've been using when we talk about One Central and Equity Works, which was transformative, and particularly transformative for communities. And so I'm excited to hear that other projects are looking at their work in that same way. We think that it's time out for development projects that come, there are lots of jobs that, that we see in the city go to various people. We see downtown being transformed, but many of our communities look the same. And so we really want to make sure that that does not happen. And so that's the whole big focus that One Central brought, that we embrace the Chicago Urban League, and why we wanted to be a part of this and a part of Equity Works, because we want to make sure that, whatever. So even, I know you mentioned specifically people with disabilities. So as the Chicago Urban League, we are open to, anyone. So we have programs for veterans. We do have some work that we do with people with disabilities. We don't have a dedicated program, but that's probably something that we should be thinking about as we think about how to transform communities. So
yeah. Thank you for that. And Tracy, I think you were going to jump in.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited about this one because, more personally, as someone who lives with a silent disability, I'm always a champion for others who, who are walking around every day and trying to just live basic, have a basic foundational life in order to provide for their families and to do the job that they love to do. And so Bally's has taken the lead during the bidding process, and even more recently to meet with Access Living, and more recently Disability Lead. And they were amazing to talk to about what resources they had and where their professional services businesses were mapped out throughout the city, and what people would be available to us. So I think first and foremost, our energy is very drummed up around that issue. But also to what Calmetta said, we're excited about our partnership with the Urban League and Black Leadership Council as well, because we know that they have the key programs like Equity Works that was mentioned before, and the Academy, the Institute, that will help us with really being able to get businesses ready. A lot of the programs that I have worked with alongside colleges and universities in my career has shown me that those businesses that are able and capable of going through programs that help them learn how to work on their business and not just in their business, are those businesses much more sustainable. And so, along with those organizations that I mentioned, we also are working with city colleges to help create those apprenticeships that Kim mentioned, and also to create a curriculum specifically for hospitality and the gaming industry. So I see a lot of collaboration. I think that these are three great projects, and I don't see why there might be opportunities for even us to collaborate on some of these for the communities we all want to serve.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal. And that was percolating in the back of my head. See, Amazon and Google is like reading my mind and giving all of you this information. So I work for a Hispanic-owned general contracting and construction management company, and we specialize in masonry. But one of the things that's happened to us as we've grown is we've grown out of some of these small business programs. So what are you planning on? I know that some of you are looking at the certified businesses, but there are some businesses that are doing really well and whose owners are doing really well. But they are kind of kicked out, if you will, graduated out of these targeted programs. Are you contemplating, and particularly, I guess, for the privately funded projects, you really can be creative and think about things a little bit differently. Are you considering perhaps some organizations or putting together packages that would help meet medium-sized businesses or help grow medium-sized businesses? Because in no way is our company as large as a Gilbane, but yet we still compete with a Gilbane for the same work. But we don't want to take work away from a small business. We actually would like to help grow small businesses as well. But we're not big enough where we can take on the kind of responsibility that perhaps we can, but not as big as Gilbane can. Have any of you contemplated that in your procurement? And if so, it'd be great to hear about that. Selfishly, but then also for the audience.
So I'd like to. Oh, I was just going to say, I don't know. It looks like Stuart was going to say something.
No, go ahead. You start.
I certainly want to talk about next one. All right. So yes, we have contemplated that. At Chicago Urban League specifically, we have a program that some of you may have heard of because it ran for about 4 years back in 2011. We relaunched it last year. It's called Next One, and it's for just that kind of business, Phaedra, that you're talking about. That business, they've been in business for 5 years. They have, substantial revenue, but they're really just trying to get to the next level. And like you're saying, people don't necessarily look at them as a small business anymore, but we have a program that it runs for 9 months. They operate in a cohort, and we are helping them with one-on-one coaching, connecting them to resources, capital, procurement opportunities, especially. And we anticipate this being part of One Central as well. So that's certainly something that we will be doing, because we know that, to your point, they may not be that, we need our first break, but they're not necessarily getting the business that larger firms would get. And so we are dedicated to looking at supporting those businesses as well.
Great, thank you.
And I was just going to say, I'll add to that, we're looking for the capacity of everybody in the minority and women-owned businesses to be able to assist in developing One Central. And Chicago is unique in terms of you cap out and you're out of the program. And I've been involved with many other communities where you have to build the collaboration for the mentorship to bring people into these jobs. And so you leverage those minority groups that have seen success already and have them help build capacity with those that are just starting out, that are entrepreneurs, some of the people we heard in the earlier panel discussions.
Thank you.
And Phaedra, I think that is an excellent segue into how Bally's approached its relationship with the city of Chicago and identifying its construction management team. So I mentioned the CCBC. The CCBC is, as I said, a joint venture partnership of 9 firms here in Chicago. 8 of them are diverse. Millhouse, Brown and Moment, Discoto, Livewire, Rightway Huggins, Powers and Sons, SQN, Ujamaa, and then Gilbane is the 9th partner. And the unique partnership also helps then to identify all of the local businesses that they've worked with to bring into this project. That group has over 250 years of business and service here in the city of Chicago, and that's outside of Gilbane. And therefore, what the group, the CCBC, is looking to do is ask all of the local businesses to begin to have partnerships, build partnerships now with Prime so that they can strengthen their capacity to work on this project. As Tracy said, we already have alignment with the Urban League and many other organizations, Hire 360, Revolution Workshop, and HACIA and Chicago Women in Trades, and many other organizations that will support the workforce aspect to understand how we can create jobs for the local businesses and for the residents here in the city of Chicago.
Thank you for that. So I know we have about 5 minutes or so before we have to wrap, but I do have a couple of other questions. So all of you you've got these massive, in terms of perspective, massive undertakings. Bally starting with the renovation and the use of the Medina Temple, but then a huge campus, casino campus, and then the Lakefront property and the One Central property, which also includes, a collaboration or a partnership with public transit. So I'm really curious about the specialties in your work, in your planned development. So a casino has particular types of technologies and specialties that are employed. The leveraging, the public transit system, there will be some specialties necessary there. Are there things or specialties, new technologies, or any new methods that are going into your properties that we should be aware of? Maybe there's a small business, we think about the very easy things to, immediately conceive about projects, but then are there unique things? Is there cybersecurity? Is there, drone technology need? Like, are there special and unique things that some entrepreneurs listening or who will view this later might not be thinking about, but could potentially be thinking about in terms of procurement? And then how do they find that information? How do we know what's procurement? So I guess, Jerry, you're on now. So I'll start with Bally. It looks like my internet is unstable. Do you guys hear me okay?
You did break up a little bit.
Okay.
So two things I'd like to mention. That from the construction aspect, the CCBC has a special opportunity for the subcontracting community. And I say it's special, but it's unique in that the pre-qualification process is using Compass. And that's special because it is a response to a one-stop shop in terms of pre-qualification. Many contractors often say that that is a hindrance to them, but this system will allow them to pre-qualify with the Bally's project, and it is of no cost. The CCBC negotiated that so that that can help the small business community on this project. And then there's also the registration portal that we have open that I can put in the chat for you to share out, that will allow people to register with us and register their interest. And as we go from now the temp casino to the permanent casino, we will have visibility to all of the businesses, professional services side and construction, that are interested in being involved on the project. So those are just two things I'd like to mention.
Yeah, and I say we have something very similar to what Jerry just mentioned. In a workforce and career interest portal. It's actually live now. So if people are interested, they can go to Bronzeville lakefrontcareers.com. And so it is a career portal so that residents, contractors are able to upload resume, vendors, and then when job opportunities become available, the portal actually matches your resume with a job opportunity. And also flip side, if you apply for a job opportunity, but are not yet kind of qualified, you may miss some of the marks. The portal actually shows you what your area of improvement should be, and then refers you to workforce partners. So whether that be you need to get extra certifications, other additional educational programmings, it kind of matches you up to make sure that you get the additional training, additional certification that you need to be able to be competitive for these job opportunities. So we see that as just a great way to really match and prepare a workforce for the skills that are needed. Because one of the things that I find in our communities is that we have a ton of opportunities, but then a lot of times we're not ready for those opportunities. And so being that we have this lead time, we want to make sure that we're preparing our workforce for the opportunities that are coming.
Thank you. And then how do we find out about the procurement opportunities? Where do contractors and small businesses or large businesses register to learn more about the Bronzeville Lakefront opportunity?
Yes, and that's again at bronzevillalakefront.com. You can learn more and then register on our website to get more about the career opportunities there and contracting opportunities.
Thank you.
Are the notes that I put in the chat, the links that I put in the chat, are they visible to the audience?
No, someone will move them to the audience so they will see it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. How about the One Central team?
Yeah, let me thank you, Phaedra. And let me speak briefly too on technology. It'll be a very integrated facility with robust Wi-Fi, cybersecurity, as you mentioned. One of our partners is Johnson Controls. They're a leading technology implementer, and they actually today have programs geared towards minority and women who need training, who are looking to get into the industry. And so they're a great resource in terms of advancing the industry and eventually working within, not necessarily just Johnson Controls, but in other technology firms, in the Chicago area and elsewhere. So you'll find that in time when you learn more about One Central, there'll be a lot of opportunities on technology. Cometa, do you have anything to add?
The only thing that I would say is that we are already doing that at the Chicago Urban League, so it will be a easy transition. We are currently training people to operate drones. They come out with their drone pilot license. We are doing everything from cybersecurity, which you mentioned, to more sophisticated technology that we're training folks on. So we are, as Kimberly mentioned, in the very similar way, we're training people for jobs of the future to make sure that our communities are ready when these opportunities come.
Awesome. That means small and large businesses can come to the Chicago Urban League and get the talent they need.
Absolutely. And
awesome.
Individual job seekers who might not yet have the skills, but we can help get them there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Just really quickly here, Jerry did a great job of sharing how people can find us and where they look for the opportunities. But I wanted to mention that Bally's is also has a great interactive division where there's new and amazing technologies happening. So if small businesses have ideas around apps or how to expand the customer experience in our casinos, then we want our small businesses that come to us to be innovative and to offer ideas up that we can consider collaboration on.
That's fantastic.
Our interactive side is very robust. So, having small businesses participate in that would be great as well.
That's awesome. I really love hearing that. Thank you so much. Well, it looks like we have gone over a few minutes, so I just want to offer my thanks to you because there are a couple minutes to do a transition. Just any quick final, quick 20-second remarks. I want to thank you so much, but any quick 20 seconds, if you have 20 seconds to share what you didn't get a chance to share, here's your opportunity to do so. If I didn't get around to asking a question, is there something that you may want to share with the audience before we hop off?
I'd like to ask the subcontracting community to get ready and show up and bid and participate in this project. Don't shy away. Please be ready and come participate.
Thank you.
And I would just echo that if businesses are preparing to work with the Bally team in Chicago, to look at that as an entry point, because we also have a casino in Rock Island. We have 10, we're across 10 states with 15 casinos. So once they start the relationship here, it could expand across our footprint. So come ready.
That's awesome. I'll go with the One Central, and I'll say close to home, Bronzeville Lakefront for our final. Anything from the One Central team, your last 20 seconds?
Come at it, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the whole point of Equity Works really is to remove barriers to entry. So if there is not something that you haven't heard us say that we're going to be doing, but you see it as a barrier for you, please reach out to us and let's talk about how we can make sure more people can participate.
Yeah, it's all about building capacity. Thanks, comment.
Thank you. And Kimberly, any final
Yeah, there
comments?
was a lot said, but I think just kind of the main point of this is that this is going to be an economic driver for the whole South Side. And so whether that be through the process we're in now, through the contracting, all the way to the end product, to the affordable housing that we're going to see on the site, the small businesses that we're looking to incubate on the site, all of it is an economic driver. And so knowing that these things are coming, I kind of piggyback off of what Jerry said. It's about us getting ready for these opportunities, just knowing that they're coming. So connecting with these service providers, connecting with the Urban League to get the additional training that you don't have right now. So if you are a small business and you feel like you're not prepared to bid on these major contracts, maybe you reach out to a larger firm and establish a mentor-mentee relationship. That's something that we encourage as well on a lot of our contracts. And so it's all about getting prepared for these opportunities. And so I'm excited to do more engagement, to reach out to the small business community, to reach out to those small contractors, to again, remove those barriers and prepare us for these opportunities that are coming to our community.
Thank you, Kimberly, Stuart, Calmetta, Tracy, and Jerry. Thank you so much for joining the SECC and our community of audience today. We really appreciate you joining us for the symposium panel. And to the audience and everyone else, please join us this afternoon at the reception. Go to the SECC website, Southeast Chicago Commission website, to get more information. Thank you all so very much. Have a good rest of the afternoon. And I'll hand it off to the Executive Director, Diane. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. Thanks to all of our amazing panelists and speakers today. How insightful and lucky are we to have these opportunities? I know we have a couple slides that we're going to come up on the screen for us. And again, just wanted to recap some of our resources. Make sure everyone's prepared for Shop Local Small Business Saturday. Thank you to all of our sponsors. It's kind of moving around quickly here. Resources. So Comcast Rise Investment Fund is open right now for small businesses. $10,000 grants will be given out to small businesses in Cook County owned by women and or people of color. So let's get applying. It is open now through October 16th. In addition, the Polsky Small Business Financial Fundamentals Program is now open, and it is a program to help prepare minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses from the South Side and West Side to help strengthen their financial fundamentals. And lastly, another resource we want to share today is the Source Grant through Cook County. They were also giving out $10,000 grants to small businesses in Cook counties with less than 20 employees. So that is open right now and due at the end of October. If you have any questions about any of these resources, you can feel free to reach out to the Southeast Chicago Commission and we can help you out. Also, as I mentioned before, Shop Local Small Business Saturday is right around the corner. We'll be doing some free marketing and promotion. Last year, we had over 60 businesses in 7 neighborhoods participate in a Shop Local campaign, so be on the lookout for that. And next slide, please. Can't forget our SouthsideChicagoJobs.com. Need to hire or need a job? We do have a free job board dedicated to Chicago Southside businesses and job seekers. It's free and it is a collaborative amongst many partners, SECC, Hyde Park Chamber of Commerce, and many others. So feel free to check that out. Next slide. And personal invite to everybody. The Art of Transformation, we are having a networking reception today in person because we're trying to bring this back in a hybrid way. So we will be at the Little Black Pearl on the corner of 47th and Greenwood, I believe. And we'll be checking out their new event space called the Black Wall. We'll be having bites by Carver 47 and wine tasting from Shall We Wine. So thank you all once again for attending. Thank you to all of our sponsors in the SECC Symposium presented by Allstate, and have a great afternoon. Thank you all.